I don't understand what's going on with this. Continue with Google. That's what I'm saying. Just log me in. Oh my god, this thing is so annoying. Alright, looks like I just have to pull up the YouTube chats on the side. This shit is annoying, but whatever. I just don't understand it, but fine. I just want to see the chat. Yeah, I don't want to see that. I just want to see the chat. YouTube, what up? You gotta be. Yeah, here we go. Yep, we all know, baby. Yeah, I need to mute myself on there though. Y'all jump in these lives and let me know what's up, man. I need to fucking be on Twitch. Really. I really need to be on Twitch. Live chat. No sound detected. No, that's just I wasn't saying nothing. Chill out. Man, Lane Kiffin really just decided to leave. I can't believe they thought that, or he thought that they were going to let him coach in the playoff. Just the entitlement is crazy. I know he's the coach and he built the program up from what it was before he got there, but for him to think that they were going to allow him to just coach the team when, things have to move and things have to keep going in this sport that we call college football, it was never going to happen. It was never going to happen. Am I in the wrong, category on live or something like that? Andrew Gomez, 5'5", what up? Yeah, we talking all college football here today, boys. Daniel Couture. Yeah, Lane Kiffin deciding to leave Ole Miss before. I don't know. I just don't think the grass is green on the other side. When you consider what LSU was this season, I mean to they got a lot to build back from. Wow, they had the number one transfer portal class and this and that, and this is one of the I want to say shittier products that LSU's put on the field, but Garrett Nussmeier, you had a lot of talent on that team, and they didn't do much this year. So it's going to be up to Lane to really build that back up because I don't see a situation where LSU starts the season off preseason top 5. There's no way. There's no way. You can't justify it at all. Appreciate you liking the live NC2616. I appreciate you. Armando, what's up? Yeah, I don't think you can justify leaving Ole Miss. I know LSU's a better program. They got more money. The location's probably better. Obviously, the alumni at LSU is gonna. The alumni at LSU is Warshield Radio. What's up? Love that. The money at LSU is better, but I don't see a situation where, like I said, LSU is in the top 5 in the country next year. I mean, honestly, I think between them not giving Bryce Underwood the money and then firing Brian Kelly, those were probably two better decisions that they've made. But pulling Lane away from Ole Miss at this time and him accepting the deal and then him trying to coach and then bringing the coaches along, I just think it's a lot, and it's a lot for the next coach to or the next program to kind of have to like think about, because they signed him to a 7-year deal. This shit says $91 million. So you're talking about 11 and a half, $12 million a year for a guy who, in year 4, he might throw his hands up and say, or year 5. I mean, what's the over under on Lane Kiffin finishing this contract? Because I would take the under. 7 years seems like a little too long. Now at LSU, he could be there for 10, 12 years and Nick Saban it and go on a run. That's his best bet. Maybe he thinks he's better than Nick Saban. I don't know. But Lane Kiffin kind of just tossing Ole Miss to the side like that. I mean, I think Rob Wurst, Tesla Dino. I love the Bills. I don't love the Bills. I love the Jets, as you can see in the background. But shout out to the Bills. Josh Allen just had that NFL record for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Insane. It's crazy that that's not Lamar's record, but he's not a QB sneak type of guy, so I understand where that record comes from. Richard, Rob Worst, Con103. You guys let me know what's up in the chat. What are you guys thinking about college football right now? Summerall to the freaking Florida Gators. How about that? I actually thought that was pretty good. Now, the coaching carousel, it is what it is right now. You got Silverfield who went to Arkansas, who Arkansas is definitely a project right now. They have the money, and schools like that are interesting because they have the money, but the talent hasn't been finding Arkansas for a very, very, very long time. And somebody who lives in St. Louis cheers on Mizzou. It would be like when Drinkwitz came to Mizzou. Well, he came from Wyoming, so I guess it's a little bit different. But you kind of expect when a coaching change happens to go from here to go like this. It doesn't have to be like this, but it can go like this. And I don't know if Arkansas is in it for the long game, but I know with that money, that Walmart money, all of that down there, they're going to need to make something shake fast, because the patience, I feel like everybody's losing patience. I feel like everybody is trying to make these big splashes. And I get on my show all the time and talk about how the coaching carousel is going to be even wilder than the transfer portal. And here we are. Lane Kiffin was pretty much holding the attention of the entire sports world with his decision, even though I think everybody kind of knew what he was going to do, which is funny because behind the scenes we can kind of tell now what was being delayed was Lane wanting to coach LSU, or Lane wanting to coach Ole Miss in the playoffs, and Ole Miss was like, yeah, take a hike, buddy, and everybody else that wants to go with you. And I think a lot of Princess Bella, what's up? Tori Tempesta, what's up? Or Tempesta? Let me know how to pronounce that in the comments. I think the coaches who didn't go are kind of looking at the situation like, Lane's done this before. He's probably going to do it again. Who knows if we have one bad season. LSU is all bought into Lane Kiffin. And if they have a bad season, then those offensive coordinators, those defensive coordinators, they're going to be gone. They'll be gone faster than you can snap your finger, because that's the power that Lane Kiffin now has at LSU. Now I think it was smart for a lot of those coaches to stay. If you're asking my honest opinion, because I don't think Lane Kiffin flames out at LSU. I think there's no way that he fails. He's gonna do better than he did at Ole Miss. But Lane Kiffin is in this for Tip Top. What's up? He's in this for Lane Kiffin. He's not in this for legacy at a school. He's in this for Lane Kiffin's legacy. And the sooner people realize that, I think a lot this will all settle in with people easier. You know what I mean? I just wish that people would realize that Lane Kiffin is in this for himself, and that's totally okay. That is totally okay. As a college coach that's making that much money, what's on the line, what you have to do to be the front-facing person of a university, make it hurts his recruiting? I don't think so, man. I don't think so. You got to think the LSU budget. LSU was willing to give Bryce Underwood $13.5 million. He decided to flip, and LSU spread that money out. But I guarantee you, with the way they, their quarterback play was this year, they had to pay the quarterback $2-3 million this year. I don't know what Garrett Nussmeier was making, but he ain't it. Thoughts on Indy being ranked higher than Michigan, even though they lost against, or like I said, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts his recruiting. Now Notre Dame, we could talk about Notre Dame. Let me just make sure I have all the right rankings right now. The rankings will come out tomorrow, so we will get a better look at that. But Mississippi being over Notre Dame, I'm not mad at it. The way that Notre Dame started the season, I think that's what hurt them. So I'm not going to say that Notre Dame is bad, because they're not a bad team at all. I think they have a chance to really get right back to the national championship, if you ask me. If it's up to Jeremiah Love in that run game, then yeah. Now CJ Carr, we'll see what happens with him. He's kind of a reckless player a little bit. You have Riley Leonard last year. You have what I think is a better athlete and potentially a better quarterback in CJ Carr, but I don't know. I'm not Notre Dame. I'm not big on Notre Dame only because of the quarterback. If that makes sense, I don't know if that hurts your feelings or not, but if we're talking just straight up rankings, I like Georgia being ahead of Oregon. I know that might be a shock to some people, but if we get Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon, the top three, the Big Ten running the table going into the playoff, that'll be interesting for debate. I think it'll be very interesting for debate, especially with Ohio State winning the national championship last year. It's very interesting. Charlie Berlin, what up? Or Berlin, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, please let me know. But no, I don't think it hurts his recruiting. I think that's a fair question to ask, or a fair thought to have. But I don't think it hurts his recruiting. And I think he actually, what was it, right when he touched down in Louisiana or Baton Rouge, whatever, he was meeting with the number 1 overall recruit that I think is signed with LSU. So he's making his splashes. I don't think there's anybody that's at LSU right now that's thinking about transferring because of Brian Kelly leaving. Lane Kiffin coming in and saying, or them saying, I'm not messing with Lane. I'm gonna leave. Now you're gonna have a lot of Ole Miss guys definitely doing that. And I think that's kind of where this all gets kind of weird, right? Because LSU can lose in the first round, or they can make it all the way to the national championship, win or lose. A lot of those guys are leaving. So a lot of those guys are going to be playing kind of with nothing to lose, but also potentially nothing, not say nothing to gain, because if you keep winning games, you're going to get, the bowl game prizes, and you get the notoriety and whatever that comes with it. Maybe a higher valuation in an NIL if you perform well in the playoffs. But a lot of those guys are probably like, yeah, I'm going to finish this season out with Ole Miss, and then I'm out of here. Kejuan Lacey, the starting running back for Ole Miss, I mean, pretty sure he's only a sophomore. He's got 1 year left. He can't go into the draft. He's probably going to LSU, and that LSU running back room is going to be pretty freaking stacked, if you ask me. So I think, Kendra, what up? I think there's definitely a chance for LSU's recruiting to actually take an uptick, because now you've got guys that are at Ole Miss that are proven that are going to want to switch to LSU for the simple fact that Lane Kiffin's over there. And that's a justifiable reason to leave. You may not be able to justify the way that Lane Kiffin left, but you can justify the rest of those players leaving, because Lane's going to have at least their best interests at heart. I already said Lane Kiffin, is really kind of in it for him, and that's okay. He's got 7 years to win a national championship. What's the over-under on national championships for Lane Kiffin at LSU? I don't think it's any higher than 1, to be honest with you, or 1.5. I guess that would be the line. The spread line would be 1.5 at LSU because I mean he hasn't won one yet, and he's flamed out at every location he's been to. So for me to sit here and say that yeah he's lined up to win 2 or 3 national titles at LSU, that would be irresponsible of me because he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't proved. I mean, he had the Ole Miss squad last year that they paid. They paid almost $20 million for that squad last year. You had Jackson Dart, who clearly has been working in the NFL, had other NFL talent, and you didn't even make it. So he's had highly funded rosters before. He hasn't done much with them. And so for me to say that he's definitely going to win a national championship, to say that any coach is going to win a national championship is irresponsible. Jimbo, what's up? You have the rest of the coaches leaving. Let's talk about some of these other coaches though. You got Golish, who goes from South Florida to Auburn. I think that is probably my favorite hire of all because USF is just kind of one of those platform schools where if you win there, you're gonna get the opportunity to coach at an Auburn or Summerall, who's at Tulane. He now gets the chance to coach at Florida. And Florida really wanted Lane Kiffin, and now they're going to try to backtrack and act like they didn't really want him as bad, but they were holding on until the very end that they could. But Florida, I think, for them to miss out on Lane, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I don't think it's the worst thing for Florida to lose out on Lane. However, I do think that Florida has to start now if they want to be anything. DJ Lagway will be going into his junior year. I feel like he would be willing to stick around and stay for Summerall. I don't know if he'll enter the transfer portal. He'd be a very hot commodity in the transfer portal, but I will say this. I will say one thing that about DJ Lagway that I wasn't prepared to say. I'm getting a spam call right now. I will say one thing about DJ Lagway that I wasn't prepared to say when the season started is that he might be slightly overrated. And him projecting him as a passer, if you had to put Lenora Sellers and DJ Lagway in the same conversation, I think Lenora Sellers probably clears DJ Lagway at this point, probably 10 times out of 10. And you could have gone back and forth. After last season, DJ Lagway probably showed a little bit more promise as a thrower. Lenore Sellers, the athlete, is definitely better, but I think it's very interesting where Florida can go from this point because I wouldn't say they're at rock bottom, but you've allowed Vanderbilt, you've allowed Mizzou, you've allowed who else? I mean, Mississippi State and Florida are probably on the same par right now as far as what is on the field. Now, facilities and talent and alumni, all that, of course, Florida is at the very, very top with Bama, Auburn, and LSU and all of them in Georgia. So I think Florida has to start now. Florida can't go another season very mediocre. I think their fans will kind of lose interest a little bit. And then Summerall, you're already this guy coming from a big school or a smaller school, and then these expectations now grow from, okay, let's try to get 9 to 10 wins at Tulane to let's see if we can get an at-large bid in the college football playoff, or can we compete until the very end of the season to get into the SEC championship? Because if you can't, then are we going to spend even more money buying you out and then spending even more money trying to get a coach that we know can get us to the playoffs? Or no, you're going to pay one of these big guys a deal that they can't refuse? Well, if you're not paying, a guy like Lane Kiffin, you can't really justify paying somebody $90 million and then them not going to the playoff. So what do you do if you're Florida and all of a sudden you look up in 2-3 years from now and Summerall hasn't led you to the playoffs and you're Florida? You're going to be sitting there kicking yourself like, okay, we could have offered Lane $95 million, or we could have let Lane have whatever he wanted. Freaking give him $95 million and let him coach Ole Miss the rest of the season. I don't really know if a lot of the schools declined that offer. I don't know how important that was to Lane. I think that he set his sights on LSU. Maybe LSU was the only option. Maybe that's why they got rid of Brian Kelly, because they knew LSU knew that Lane Kiffin was coming. But the stipulation of being able to coach the playoffs and then being able to recruit in time at LSU, I don't think it would have worked. I think LSU would have allowed him to, because that's their guy and that's who they're going to pay, and they would have done whatever to get him because they've just fired Brian Kelly. But I think it puts both schools in a weird predicament where LSU needs to get on the recruiting trail now, like now. And Ole Miss had the best season they've ever had. Petite Power, what up? I'm trying to figure out if Lane Kiffin really thought a lot of that through. Now, I don't think Petite Power, how you doing? Appreciate you responding. I can't really see your profile picture, but it looks good. I just really think that LSU was in a weird spot. The Lane Kiffin move, yeah, I'm kind of torn because I figured that he was gonna leave. I did figure that he was gonna leave. It's just him thinking and being entitled enough to think that Ole Miss was gonna let him coach the way that he was, kind of just milking the whole situation. Because I think that he knew that he was going to LSU probably a week ago. And then as all the reports come out, if you're on Twitter, you kind of have been keeping up with hour by hour. People are giving their own testimonies of what happened. Players in the building are kind of slowly tweeting out what they think. Sorry, excuse me. And so I think that Ole Miss felt disrespected in the fact that he thought that he could continue to coach the team, and then once they lose, if they were to win it all, that he would have just bounced. And then you do win it all. Let's say they do win it all, and then he leaves, accepts this offer already. What are you left with as a program? So I think it put Ole Miss in a weird spot where they now become bitter, and they get a new guy in there, the defensive coordinator. What's his name? Well, I'm already Pete Golding. You get Pete Golding in there, who probably has all the respect of the players, which is fine. But Lane Kiffin is sitting there now, has to hit the recruiting trail hard. You leave a lot of room for the I don't know to happen, because do all the Ole Miss guys leave? Do the Ole Miss guys like the defensive coordinator that's there now? Yeah, it looks like LSU giving him a bonus of Ole Miss playoff run. Yeah. So he signed for all that money, and I think that and I think it's good. There's probably a lot of guarantees in there. There's probably a lot of contract stipulations as far as incentives and all that. Chance Henson, what's up? You saw the people booing him at the airport when he got on that plane. And, of course, the Ole Miss fans, those same fans would have been cheering him on had he said he signed an extension. So can't really say anything about that because fans are very wishy-washy like that. But in the manner that he did leave, and in the manner that he has kind of gone about this and just acted as if it was just kind of, waking up and just see where the wind or the dust blows in the wind, he's affecting a lot of lives. And a lot of those kids that are at Ole Miss right now, like I said before you got in here, Petite Power, is, these kids they have something to play for, and that's national championship and more notoriety and stats and NIL valuation at the end of the season. But once this season is over for Ole Miss, half that locker room is going to be gone, whether they're going to LSU or whether they're going somewhere else, and going to feel prioritized, because now these kids are very justified in their decision to leave. Their head coach left. You see people leave. Jev, what's up? Chris Griffin, what up? You see these kids leave all the time over coaches leaving school. So I can justify any of those players leaving, star player or not. If you want to go to LSU, fine, go ahead. If you want to transfer somewhere else in the SEC or go to the Big 10 or Big 12, then yeah. Bro, what? Man, choosing my career every time. You sound crazy. Okay, yeah. You didn't get to the part where I was talking before. Is if you're Lane Kiffin, you're in this for Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin has showed us that he's in this for Lane Kiffin. I'm not saying that he should care about his legacy at any school. If I was a college coach in this era of college football, I'd be worried about my pockets and my personal legacy just wins and losses, championships, who I was able to get into the NFL, all of that. My legacy at a school, I don't think Lane Kiffin's ever cared about that, and that's okay. You don't have to be Coach K at Duke. You don't have to be Bill Self at Kansas. You don't have to be Nick Saban at Alabama, even though Nick Saban was at LSU. He was in the NFL. You don't have to worry about any of that. So, Jev, I do understand what you're saying, that, yes, you're going to choose your career anytime. Who cares about what these outside people say? Who cares about these fans? You're going to have new fans at LSU. Yeah, coaching players, yeah. My focus would be just pay me the money. I mean, that's kind of the world we live in now, right? And the loyalty in sports, I would say, is probably at an all-time low. Management side, player side, owners are very fickle now. You see that in the NFL. The Shedeur Sanders situation is another one where it's like, okay, the GM wants something, the head coach wants something, and then the owner wants something. The owner, which sounds more like Landon Schultz, what up? More like Petit Power and Jev, like, okay, the owner wants butts and seats. Shedeur Sanders brings that. The GM wants Dylan Gabriel. The head coach just wants the better quarterback to be on the field. And so there's three different angles that you can go at. With the LSU thing, like I said, LSU's going to have money forever to pay a coach. And if Lane Kiffin flames out there and leaves in 5 or 6 years or leaves in 4 years, they're going to have the pockets to offer somebody else. But do I trust Lane Kiffin's ability to find talent? Absolutely. He has a kid from D2, Trinidad Chambliss, starting right now into the playoffs. That kid went from D2 national champion to leading Ole Miss into the playoffs after not even playing the first couple games. So I do believe in his eye for talent. Now, Lane Kiffin also calls plays. So I think that's what puts Ole Miss in a weird bind, is that Lane Kiffin was the play caller. So who's calling those plays now? The tendency is going to be the same. Are you doing just a kind of reincarnation of Lane trying to call plays? Are you leaving it up to quarterback to kind of make adjustments at the line of scrimmage? If Ole Miss gets into the playoffs and lose by 15, 20 points, will any of us be surprised? Probably not. And if, that's the bad taste that everybody's left with in their mouths in that locker room, then I can see a lot of players leaving. And so at this point, Lane's best wish would be for Ole Miss to lose by 2-3 touchdowns in the playoff, and some of those players going over to him at LSU, because he'll pay for them and pay him probably $50,000 to $100,000 extra to be on the roster. Hawkman, what's up? Andrew Williamson, Rooster Roo, what up? Ryan Garcia, Melissa McCabe, Hawkman, Kristen Gilman. I appreciate you guys all joining the live. Talk to me in this chat. But yeah, my focus, you said your focus would be on just to pay me the money. I get it. I definitely get it. Especially in this world that we live in now, where everybody's money is important. And 7 years, $91 million sounds great. Better do something with it, though. I'll tell you what, because I think now, PB, what up? I think now that everybody is kind of on this, everybody's kind of caught up to speed with the Lane Kiffin train. They kind of know what kind of guy he is on and off the field. You say whatever you want about him off the field. On the field, he produces. But this whole moment and this stage really kind of set the sports world on fire to the point where now he's going to be under a microscope at LSU. And when LSU goes back and visits Ole Miss in that matchup, that is going to be must-see TV. Lane Kiffin is one of the better entertainers of college football, and I think that him giving us that moment will be fire. It will be absolute freaking cinema. So I can't wait for that in 2026. And if anybody is new to the broadcast, welcome. I've been saying for a long time that I think this year the coaching carousel is going to be even more interesting than the transfer portal, because the transfer portal, as you pay attention to it more and more and more, you see the talent and you see why certain guys, he'll be gone in 3. Look, put it in the chat right now. What do you guys think his over-under is for 1, championships, and 2, year stay? Because 1.5 championships has to be the line. Anything above 1 championship for him, I'm not going for it. Under 1, if he doesn't win a championship in those first 4 years, what do you think happens to him? That's an honest question. I'm asking you to reply to me in the chat. Sean Peterson, what up? I'm asking you to reply to me in the chat because he may make an appearance in the championship. I think he will always be safe no matter what. If he makes it to the Final Four, like if he makes it to the semifinals with that NIL payday, 2 years, LSU got talent. Shrimp Boat 53, what up? I appreciate you, Chad. I don't know, because I would say that Brian Kelly had a decent amount of talent too, and they weren't even close. He got a Heisman winner, but that was it. Now, Lane's a better coach. Lane is a better evaluator of talent, as you could see. But I think you still have to have patience, and I think that's why this contract is 7 years long, because he probably told LSU, hey, I need at least a year. I at least need my first year to be a recouping year, because we're losing our quarterback. I need to bring in a new QB. I need to bring in a new offensive line. I need to bring in all of my coaches. So the first year, wipe it clean. We can win 8 or 9 games. Oh, okay. But if LSU fires him, no program in the right mind will hire him. I would disagree with that. There will be a Big 10 school, Big 12, or maybe even another SEC school that'll hire him for sure. He won't get the same money and the same incentives, but he'll get hired again. He's too talented. He just gave up on a playoff team with the excuse, I couldn't make it to the playoffs here. I mean, he didn't make it to the playoff last year, and they had all that bread. And so this year he was given the ultimatum. If the LSU job was open before this season started, he would have bolted. I don't think Ole Miss was ever a destination school for Lane Kiffin. I don't think it ever was. Yeah, dude. The whole texting sorority girls, the being on Snapchat, the Instagram DMs, these texts is like, this dude, like, if he could be 21, 22 years old again, stomping around campuses and being at sorority parties and stuff like that, he would. I think if there weren't any cameras around, he would be at these parties. If social media didn't exist, he would be at these parties. He would be messing with 19, 20-year-olds 100%. It's hilarious how all this LSU is going to be crazy in a few years. Yeah, I would say the 2026 what's next year? 2026, 2027. I would say the 2027, 2028 year, he's got to be in the semifinals. Yeah, isn't that crazy? He's asking chick for her moms and stuff. Hey, man. At least he's asking for the moms and stuff. I mean, my goodness. He's like in his 40s now. Come on. Coach O. What's crazy is what they did with Coach O is insane. What they did to Coach O is insane. Now, that's the way it goes at these schools, though. You guys got to realize, if they can do that to Coach O, who had one of the greatest football teams in college football history, Lane Kiffin not winning one, they'll kick his ass to the curb so fast. So fast. So him going all 7 years, there's no way. There's just no way. Kiffin won't win in the first 2 years, and I say he goes 7-5. No. 7-5 is insane. That would be a hell of a prediction. That'd be a hell of a prediction. I'd call you by your name, but you only have 2 emojis by your name: crying face and prayer hands. But if he goes 7-5 the first 2 years, or even if he goes 7-5 next year, people will be on his ass, deservedly so. And he's going to get all the money in the world. If you think Brian Kelly got, $25 million to play with, Lane Kiffin's probably going to have 35. I wouldn't be surprised if he's paying his starting quarterback next year $5 to $6 million straight up for that one single season. Because LSU fans are thirsty. LSU fans are thirsty. Yeah. No. LSU is going to have great talent coming in, and they already did have good talent coming in. So don't think that like LSU is gonna be worse than Ole Miss next year, because they'll probably flip-flop records. If I had to make my safest bet, it would be that either they flip-flop records, or LSU goes into next year and wins 9 or 10 games and loses 3, get into the playoff and lose their third, something like that. My safest bet would be for Ole Miss or for LSU to at least make the playoffs next year. Stoops out, who's in? Look, I'm just ready to say Ole Miss 4-8. I'll give them 5. Damn, you don't think Ole Miss can be bowl eligible? Greg Dake, I hope that's pronouncing that right. Pete Golding has been running Ole Miss recruiting for years. I don't think we lost coach who. Okay, I bet Ole Miss players are coming to LSU also. Not all of them, because it ain't that much room. And a lot of those guys on LSU are already better than those guys at Ole Miss. So now it can't be all of them. It would be Keywan Lacey. I don't think Trinidad Chambliss has any eligibility left, but you're going to get some offensive linemen that are going to go, because those guys are the most offensive linemen and defensive linemen. If you can get those guys that are good instead of having to rely on freshmen and younger guys. That's how you play the trenches in football. So a lot of those offensive linemen, defensive linemen will be coming with him for sure. Will Stein in Kentucky. Chambliss has 1 year left if he if he wants. Makes bad decisions, man. Like he's talking. Makes bad decisions in the worst moment. Lamar Brown is, I think there's a chance for him to be really, really good. And if you guys don't know who Lamar Brown is, I would go look up those highlights because he definitely has a high ceiling. I think he could definitely be better than Garrett Nussmeier. I think the Garrett Nussmeier disappointment was one of the bigger surprises of college football this year. And I think LSU was bad because he was bad. Straight up. Honestly. SWW, Meta League, what's up? Well, you guys are killing it in the chat today. Devin Deshaun, Justin Luke, Mr. Kelly Cole, Fast Living Sosa. Yeah, you guys are killing it today. I appreciate the love, Gary Patterson, Neba. You guys run this live up. And follow and help me out here. I appreciate you guys listening. But anyway, let's get back to the chat. So here's the thing, though. What happens if, like a hypothetical scenario, what if Bryce Underwood had stayed at LSU? One, he probably gets in. Garrett Nussmeier gets benched because you're paying him way too much money. But does Brian Kelly get fired if Underwood goes to LSU? Because then you're giving Brian Kelly more time with one of the most elite prospects that we've ever seen. You got to give him another year to at least coach him, right? Or do you give him the boot and then you hope Bryce Underwood stays by bringing in a Lane Kiffin? Super hypothetical, but I think it's interesting how a lot of that stuff plays out. Why did Bryce leave? Because Larry Ellison, one of the richest guys in the world, was able to pay him, I think, a couple extra $1 million more. And I think Bryce Underwood was from Michigan, and I don't think Michigan could come up with the NIL money. I don't think they were willing to match LSU until Larry Ellison came in the picture, and then they're like, oh, screw it, the kid's going to stay home. Hartline or Steins to Kentucky. I think Brian Hartline, I think he's ready at this point. He's got to be ready, right? He has no choice. You don't get a lot of these the coaching carousel, the coaching windows don't move that often. And I know it's Kentucky, and people can say whatever they want, but you have the ability to turn teams around in the NIL era. And Brian Hartline, for him to get his first real shot at coaching at a school like Kentucky, that would be a blessing in its own for him. Don't think that just because it's a bottom tier SEC school that it's not a good job. One, they're still in the SEC. You're not coaching at, and no disrespect, but you're not coaching at NC State or Memphis or Tulane or Syracuse. Like Fran Brown, he's going to get out of Syracuse as fast as he can for the right opportunity. It's definitely coming. Flights are happening from Ohio to Lexington right now. Absolutely. Hartline is in one of those situations where he's going to have to go. He's going to have to get on the recruiting trail, and maybe he gets one of those kids that's a 2B sophomore, 2B senior, 2B junior at Ohio State to come down with him to Kentucky and get some reps and, boost their NFL stock or something. There's incentives for everybody to follow their coaches around. So everybody kind of understands that there's incentives for these coaches to leave, a huge payday, and the jumpstart to your head coaching career, and then for these players to get more money in NIL, a chance to play, and then you're around a coach that you've known. And so the schemes, the plays, it's all easier to learn. Hartline ain't going anywhere. I don't say that because a head coaching job is just so lucrative in this time, and you can only be a position coach for so long. You can only be a position coach for so long. We got to talk about Penn State. I'm so glad you brought that up. Penn State, people tried to tell me for the longest time that job was lucrative. And if that job was as lucrative as people say, then somebody would have been there by now. Drinkwitz, Golish, Silverfield, Summerall. I mean, I'm sure all those guys got asked about the Penn State job, and none of them took it. Florida State got a steal. Florida got a steal with Summerall? Absolutely, they did. And I think Summerall is in the perfect position right now where what Hartline has to do is Summerall he's already been a head coach, so it's a little bit different. But Summerall, he maxed out what he was going to do at Tulane. And you go to Florida, and you have all the money, and you give a coach the reins, because you know that Florida was going to give the reins to Lane Kiffin. So if you're Summerall, you go into those contract negotiations and you say, hey, I'm a proven coach not on the level of Lane Kiffin, but I'm a proven coach too. Here are the things that I need in order to succeed. And I know you're going to be willing to give them to another coach in Lane Kiffin. So I need those as well. Because if you can give those guarantees and those incentives to me, then I can bring in talent. This is Florida. We're better than Florida State. And you can't be Florida and have allowed Vanderbilt, Mizzou. I mean, how many schools in the SEC have passed up Florida? You can't tell me that's a good thing for Florida alumni fan bases and the NIL collective down there, because they ain't having that. They ain't having that much longer. The thing is, LSU is the only good school in Louisiana, so it's better for him. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the LSU brand is way too strong for any coach or player to bring it down. I mean, Brian Kelly, you could say what you want about him. LSU, still LSU. Still got the same fan base. They just are moving on to the next guy. Tell Brian Kelly to go to Penn State. Penn State wouldn't do it. I think there's not a single coach that ruined their reputation and stock more than Brian Kelly did in his latter years at LSU. And then the exit, just everything that Brian Kelly kind of represented is just like, I think that his coaching career is not done, but that buyout's probably the largest sum of money that he's going to see for the rest of his career. I don't want to say the rest of his life because that'd be rude, but I don't think that he gets a premier coaching job anytime soon. On Jeff Phillips, what up? You guys are going crazy in the live today. Cedric, what's up? Josh, Gary Holmes, Tayshawn, T. McGee, Lucas, Bill Tucker, Roll Damn Tide. Hey, Roll Tide, huh? Tyler McClellan, Malenkon. I'm so bad with names. Bryce Jones, Nicholas Powell, KS West, Eric Berry. Shout out to Eric Berry. You like Golich at Auburn? I do like Golich to Auburn. I think another guy like Summerall, he kind of maxed out at USF. I think that guy knows how to really coach, though. Like, I think he's a really good schematic coach, and that's always going to work. The personality, you have to have the personality for these players, but you have so many things around you, the school, the environment, the girls, the location, all these other assistants that help out. There's so many things that go on as a college football coach that you have to pay attention to and that you have to be aware of, that if you are just really good in between the lines, if you're really good at the X's and O's, that it's going to translate and it's going to travel. It definitely will. And USF had some notable wins this year. They competed. They were really good. They're in the AAC championship. They're letting him coach that championship game, and then I think after that they'll be done. Or actually, if they win the AAC and they get in, I think USF's allowing him to coach. So it kind of just shows you that Lane has a bunch of money to spend on players now. Who's going to PSU? I don't know. I thought there was a chance that Drinkwitz might go. I think there was a chance that Drinkwitz might go. He signed the extension, so I think that was good for him. I think if Texas Texas was never going to get rid of Sarkisian, but that's what Penn State is looking for. They're looking for the big fish. They were looking for somebody to flame out that was going to hit the coaching carousel and maybe swipe them and get some money that they weren't going to get anywhere else. But Penn State's kind of fucked. Like, they thought that they were going to fire James Franklin and be the only premier spot available, and they learned very fast that when Florida became available, they were done. I mean, tell me if someone does not hire John Gruden, I'd see Kyle Flood go to. That'd be a good hire for Kyle Flood. Scales, what up? Somebody said my name like that. That's crazy. I hope I know who that is. Who's going to UK? It's got to be Hartline. I don't think Hartline gets the Penn State job. I think that's too much pressure. Who's my Heisman favorite? I see JMU coach to UCLA. I don't know. I think I think UCLA might be set, and I don't think that UCLA is a good. I don't think UCLA is a good get until they start their production on this new stadium that they're going to put on campus or something like that. Because the fact that they still play in the Rose Bowl and they can't get any fans there and the team sucks, like, it just all goes into it, and that's a big red flag for a coach that would be going there and getting paid what he's going to get paid, which is not that much, to have hardly no expectations, but there's no expectations to win. So UCLA is on the back burner. I think a job like Arkansas needs to be on your radar more so than UCLA. Who do you think USF hires after Golich? They probably promote somebody within and then probably take a year off. I don't even know who would be. UCLA signed Chesney. Yeah, that's right. I'm late on that. What about Ed Orgeron? He said he wanted to come back to coaching. look, these guys that are taking breaks from coaching, John Gruden, Coach O, I'm not saying that the game has passed them by. I'm not saying that, but there's a big chance that could be a real thing, that you take this time off and the game moves past you. And like, does John Gruden and Coach O, do they really get down with how the NIL works? Do they really get down with how like this stuff works? I don't know. I really don't know. Let's go through some of these right now. Yeah, Bob Chesney going to you. So look, Kurt Signetti goes from JMU to Indiana, and you see what he's doing. Kurt Signetti, probably the best college football coach in America right now. Right now. Any LSU would have offered him the bag to go down there. LSU would have offered him the bag if he didn't sign that extension with Indiana. Look up LSU next schedule. It's a hard schedule. Yeah, let's look up LSU 2026 schedule. Football. Who do they got right now? So they at Ole Miss is great. At Ole Miss is great. They play Alabama at home. They have Texas A&M at home. They play Texas at home. So it's kind of favorable, but those are still some very, very good teams. Sorry, excuse me. Coach O was doing NIL before NIL was allowed, LOL. You're probably not wrong. I'd be very hard-fetched to say that if Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson went through there without getting a single dime. Now, Joe Burrow, different story, because he was already at LSU, and he had 1 year, and he was just okay. So no one really saw that Joe Burrow was going to light it up the way he did his second year at LSU. So he probably had some money at the very end, but yeah, I wouldn't be. Sean Spencer, yeah. Now we're getting hot, guys. Now we're talking. Yeah, not going to see Gruden. I'm just scrolling up to your chat. Not going to see Gruden in college. Not a college guy. I think he's more of a pro coach. But I think the way that he's kind of handled himself now on social media, with the way that he kind of moves around, maybe he would be into college coaching, because there's a way that you can now push these kids that are getting paid. Like, hey, we're paying you a bunch of money. I can coach you hard as hell. I'm not going to care if you leave or not. Like, this is my shit. This is my coaching job. You can kick rocks if you want to. That's how most coaches operate. Crazy hire Sean Spencer, LSU at Ole Miss is going to be a new rivalry. Hell yeah. And the fact that they play at Ole Miss is even better. That is going to be must-see TV. I think re-recruiting your own roster would annoy him. Not as annoying as you think, because you're familiar with all those guys. And I think the more annoying thing would be guys asking for more money, and whether they produced or not, depending on what the school's budget is and what the NIL donors and collective is. That's probably where it gets more tricky. But the actual on-play production or on-field production, no, there's nothing less annoying than actually knowing what you're about to get into. LSU and Ole Miss is already Robert right. They play for a trophy. It's just going to get more personal. Absolutely personal. Fitz is a great hire at MSU. Don't disagree with that. You meant John Gruden re-recruiting your own. Yeah, like when they played Tennessee, they threw stuff at him. Yeah, I mean, that's how Lane Kiffin, that's how he operates. He knows that he's going to have to drag himself through the mud, and he's going to have to face those consequences. It just kind of is what it is. Let me see. John Summerall. We can talk about summer football. Silverfield at Arkansas. I think Memphis. I mean, all of the AAC schools. Let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. All of these AAC schools in Memphis, the Tulanes, all the schools like that, those are all stepping stone schools, and I don't blame those coaches for treating it as that. It sucks as the players and as the program, but I mean, if you're a Memphis player and you're pretty darn good, you're probably going to Arkansas, and you're going to get some more money. So it's probably a win. It's a win for the player, I should say. The school loses out. They got to go and get a guy who is definitely not as good, and they're definitely not going to pay him as much. So you don't really know what kind of talent you're going to be retaining. But nonetheless, you're still a big-time D1 college football program. So you're going to get the guys that you do want. Maybe not the guys that you need. Yeah, Memphis and I'm alum. I was shocked. Decent coach, consistent 8 to 9 wins. I mean, do you see Ryan Grubb going anywhere this year? Look, I I like Ryan Grubb. I think that he probably needs. I don't know. It depends. He probably needs one more year on the DeBoer to see if it's a good match. Because what happens with a lot of these offensive coordinators is that they do get tied to these head coaches until like the end of the tunnel finally comes. And so, do I think it's the right time for him to go out right now? No, I would say it's not, because if you go and chase a head coaching job that didn't necessarily want you in the first couple of phases of their coaching search, then you're very easily deployable. And Ryan Grubb is in a situation right now where at Alabama, if Kalen DeBoer leaves or gets fired, then you could be the next man up. Because I can tell you right now, what's going to happen is these schools are going to start hiring really, really smart assistant coaches and guys that they can believe can step up in the disaster, a case of a disaster where the head coach falls off, takes another job, the team all of a sudden becomes ass, like kind of like an associate head coach type of thing, like kind of under the table, like, hey, you're going to be our guy if this guy leaves or gets a better contract offer, or if we have to fire him, or some unprecedented happens and some weird legal issue happens or something like that. Then I think that's what could happen. Who do you think wins the championship the next 3 years? Who brings more transfers to Kentucky? Heartline. He's got the name. He's got the brand. He's got the hot name right now. Who do you think wins the national championship the next 3 years? Look, as long as Julian Sand and Jeremiah Smith are playing catch, shoot. I don't see anybody stopping Ohio State from. I don't see anybody stopping Ohio State from repeating. We'll see what happens in the Big Ten championship, because I think you're talking about the most talented team in the country, Ohio State, playing the most well-coached team in the country in Indiana, and those teams are 1 and 2 for a reason. So I think Ohio State wins by 8 points. That spread shouldn't be any higher than 7.5. But I'm not going to be able to predict a winner in the national championship. But if I had to say someone to go to repeat right now, I would say Ohio State, and then I would say Ohio State should probably be preseason number 1 next year. The carousel does so much chaos now. The AAC might, yeah, they're going to have to poach coaches from Texas State or the Sun Belt, or you get a possible. Oh, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the AAC that's very interesting. And Theo, I appreciate your comment. Texas A&M or Georgia wins it all. I got Georgia as my dark horse to win it all, just complete. But here's the thing about the coaching carousel in the AAC is that the AAC gets that at-large bid. So you could get some coaches that think that they're good enough to coach at the playoff level, or at least get a team to that level. And you could poach a coach from the Big 12. You could poach a coach from the bottom tier of the SEC, or probably not the bottom tier of the SEC, but the bottom tier of the Big 12, the bottom tier of the Big 10. Or maybe now that the Pac-12 is kind of starting to realign itself, you get a coach from out there to come down to the AAC and say, hey, if we win this conference, we're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. That could be enticing to some coaches. I don't know. I mean, you have to win your league first and go 11-1, 12-0 almost. So we'll see what happens. But, I mean, there's a possibility that the AAC will have to start poaching coaches from, these mid-major programs and turning those guys into something. Either way it goes, the AAC is going to be a launching pad to go upwards no matter what. If that coach goes from Wyoming to Tulane, and then Tulane, he gets them to 2, 3, 10-win seasons, and then, I don't know, the Mizzou job opens up, or the Illinois job opens up, or the Wisconsin job opens up, that coach is out of here, and he should be. And that's how it goes in this business, and it's going to keep on recycling. Stoops to Georgia behind Kirby. I don't think he's taking that. AAC, great job with the bid, yeah. Should UMass be sent down? No. You got to understand that if UMass goes down to the FCS, they win the FCS championship the first year that they're there. You talk about who wins next championship in 3 years, they do if they go down to FCS. That's cool, but do they leave right before the playoffs? No, you're right. They don't. Not everybody's a freaking dickhead like Lane Kiffin, and they're not going to leave and burn a bridge. Lane Kiffin is okay with burning the bridge right behind him, no matter who falls off, no matter who's not coming with him. A lot of the other coaches are a little bit more respectful, and they kind of have to be. They haven't really earned the right to do what Lane Kiffin did, and it is what it is. I respectfully disagree. You think UMass should be sent down to FCS, or you talking about you disagree with something I said? Let me know. True story. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Summerall was wanting the Kentucky job in Florida, my heart, because he waited. Nah, I think Summerall was just waiting for the right contract to come his way. I think he was always leaving Tulane. I think he was too good to be looking at the Kentucky job. As crazy as that sounds, if you're getting looked at by Florida, then Kentucky's out of your peripherals. That's just kind of how it is. Hate to my LES send down. Look, I watch Mizzou a lot. Mizzou, for some reason, likes to put them on their schedule damn near every year, and they look terrible. They look terrible. They couldn't win with Don Brown. Can't win with it. I mean, if you're a UMass fan, then prayers to you. Lane has so much NIL money. He's keeping the current LSU DC. Yeah, he should keep some guys around. He needs to keep some familiar faces in the building, because once those guys start leaving, not everybody is there for Lane Kiffin. Not everybody is going to be there for Lane Kiffin now. Let me go to my stream lane really quick. Ohio State is beating Indiana. Yeah, that line shouldn't be any lower than 7.5. But who isn't leaving for $100 million? Yeah, I mean, who isn't, guys? I mean, we got to be serious. He needs to keep Baker. Yeah, he probably should. Tyler Underwood, Gateway Kid, Dustin, Scotty Brown, Eric Berry. You guys that have been in here, D3 Logan, I appreciate you guys. Joe, all you guys that have been in here for a long time, keeping up. Keep with the answers, or keep with the questions. I'll keep answering them. This coaching carousel, like I said, is going to be, in these next 2-3 years, you guys are going to see coaching movement that we've never seen before, and it's all going to be justified under the dollar amount. These buyouts are going to be insane. But yeah, I think LSU, with their schedule next year, going to Ole Miss is going to be very, very, very interesting. Ryan Grubb, just to end it on him, not end the live on him, but end the talk on him. I think that he stays at Alabama, if you're ever wondering. Goalish to Auburn. Here's the thing about Auburn. Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. Nobody's brought up the North Texas thing in the chat yet, which I thought was very interesting, because North Texas is definitely a stepping stone school. But go from North Texas to a team that's literally 1-10 right now and has no hope, very, very surprising. If he turns that program around, even just to get bowl eligible next year, that's a win for him. The expectations for him are very low, and he could take his quarterback with him. Mestamaker, or Metamaker, however you say it. He's a true freshman and didn't even play in high school. He's going with him. He'll be an Oklahoma State Cowboy next year for sure. When Duke wins, does it knock all from ACC from the playoff? No, because I think the ACC winner still. Well, if you're talking about Duke winning the ACC, wow, and they'd be like what, 7-5? They got to make it. North Texas having true freshman QB running going 11-1 is mad impressive. Yeah, you're right, because I don't think they can allow a 7-5 team to kind of just stumble in. I think it would have to be the highest ranked team left from the ACC. Here's who messed it up. Georgia Tech messed it up for themselves, because if they'd have at least ran the table and then lost to Georgia, then they'd be okay. But that loss to SMU, was it SMU? Or no, Pittsburgh. That loss to Pittsburgh was bad, like really, really bad. And so they are, they're out. The Canes, the freaking Miami Hurricanes, man. One of the most talented rosters in the entire country. I guess you could say what you want to say about Carson Beck. He was very, very hot at the beginning of the season. Heisman talks, all that, and then kind of just fell off. I think no ACC is top highest ranked conference winners, no auto bid. Yeah. If you're a Kentucky fan, would you rather have Will Stein or Brian Hartline? Michael Powers. I'm going Brian Hartline because of the lineage that he can bring to that school, and his name is just a little bit more known. GT was 8-0. They're literally a mid-2010s Big 12 school. What is defense? Yeah, they screwed themselves. I'm not saying that Georgia Tech was going to win it all, but they definitely would have had the resume. If their only loss in the entire season was to Georgia, then they definitely would have had something to say about that for sure. Kenny Thornton, what up? Tristan Bratcher, what's up, guys? How you guys doing? Let me know what you guys think. We could talk playoffs if you guys want. I think it's over for like schools like Texas. Michigan would have had a chance to get in if they'd have won, but they look like crap. Georgia's going to be third. Texas Tech has to win the league to get their bye. I think if here's the thing that's going to mess up a lot is if BYU beats Texas Tech, then then you're going to be talking about what's up, Tristan? You think Vandy deserves a shot? Yeah, I mean, I think they've gotten the shot that they deserve. It's just, it is what it is with them right now. I think they do get in. I think if BYU beats Texas Tech, that means both of them have to get in, which knocks down other teams. So if you're a Vandy fan, then you're definitely rooting for Texas Tech. I would say that. What would you grade Morris to Oklahoma State? Am I grading Morris or am I grading Oklahoma State? If I'm grading Oklahoma State, I'm giving about a B+. If I'm grading Morris, I would say by B- to C+, only because it's a better job, obviously, but I mean, look at what you're left with. And to say that you're just going to bring a quarterback and a running back over and a couple assistants and then you're going to turn everything around, sure, it sounds good, but, I mean, you're still in the Big 12, and you're going to have to compete with a lot. And who's to say that a lot of those Oklahoma State guys are still not going to leave in the portal? JMU getting because of the rules they wrote, they never expect the ACC to go full Coastal Division. Yeah, them putting SMU and Stanford and shit like that into the ACC kind of put them in a weird bind as far as the quality of that conference. JMU, that 12 spot, man, that's a very hard one to pick because Oklahoma at the 8 and 9, I think that's going to be your closest matchup that you're going to get. And then 11, I don't know what the ESPN is talking about. I think that quarterfinal games, Tulane, because Virginia still has a chance to make it if they win. Like a team from Texas played a team from California. ACC, hard to hear. Yeah, it's just weird. Like it's I don't know. I wish they would go back to at least the old Pac-12 and maybe throw an extra couple teams in there or something like that. But Virginia wins, they are in. Yeah, if Virginia wins, they're gonna be in. So that's going to be a pretty big wrench into the playoff. I don't think that team is very good. A potential Oregon-Texas Tech matchup sounds like some good offense to me. And underrated good defenses too. So that would be a fun matchup. I think Texas Tech just being in it is a huge wrench in all of this because they have the most expensive roster and they actually made it work. Unlike Ole Miss a year ago, unlike LSU this year, Texas Tech actually made it work. So not a fan of the super conferences either. Yeah. Here's the thing, guys. And this is not something that I'm rooting for. This is not something that I think I want to happen. But as you can tell, a lot of this is money-driven, business-driven. We got to get the best Big Ten and SEC teams in. We're at 12 right now, but this is probably going to end up going to 16 teams. It's going to end up going to 16 teams. Ellie, what's up? All Bat, what up? Yeah, this is going to end up going to 16 teams because of the teams that need to get in. I mean, you're going to hear about it. Once the playoffs are set this year, it's going to be schools and conferences in those committee rooms raising hell because you need the representation from your conferences because it all ties in the TV money, the recruiting, the budgets for these schools, the enrollment. It's all one big circle, and if these conferences can get more representation in the playoffs, then they will. They simply will. And I know the SEC and the Big Ten may not be in favor of it, but if they can get even more representation into the playoff for their conference, they're probably sign up for that too. And 8 at large, I think if 2 G5s get in, they're gonna spend all postseason talking about 16 teams. Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's going to go all the conference champs to make it an 8 large. 8 at large seems fine to me. I just think that what the committee did, the one thing I will praise the committee on is that they're now going from the 12 best and not the 12 most deserving. And I think that silver line that you have to draw is very important. I think it's very important to distinguish what the criteria is to make it. Because if you do say the 12 best, that means that at some point, either this year or next year or the year after, before you go to 16, that a 9-3 team is going to make the playoff as an at-large without winning their conference. Like, that could be a thing because these polls, the coaches poll, the coaching polls, and then the playoff rankings that come out on Tuesdays before the shit is set, they're gonna position that 9-3 or let's say they're 8-2 and going into a possible conference championship game and could be 9-3. Let's say that happens. Well, if that happens, they're setting the criteria now to where the Big Ten, if you just get to the Big Ten and SEC championship, which your record is going to have to be pretty good to get there, but if you get to that game, you're in. So you don't even have to win the Big Ten and the SEC starting this year. You're not going to have to win it to get in. And so if you set that precedent, then you have to keep on with the pattern. You can't just keep on changing criteria, because then that's when it starts looking fixed, and that's when the shit starts getting unfair. So I think that's going to be something to look out for, is what criteria this committee sets, because that's what they're going to have to base the next year off of. So it could be very interesting. It definitely could be another reason why we end up going to 16, is because I'm so confused on why they don't come out with the weighted system. Look, we had the weighted system, and that was the BCS, and everybody hated it. And we went to 4 teams, and everybody hated 4 teams. And, now we see what we have now. And we had a weighted system. It was computer generated. Teams played who they played. And if you were 11-0 at the end of the season and you got upset in that last week of the season, you probably weren't making a national championship. And if that would have happened now, you stand there, could still get a bye. So who knows with how the conference championships work, everything. We've had a weighted system before, and people hated it. Kentucky going to get Will Stein. I mean, whoever they get, Will Stein or Harline, I think that they're only going to go up from there. All conference championships make it. The runner-up on Power 4 make it. Indy. Yeah, well, we need the computers love 2000 Boise. Good old days. Yeah, man. Good freaking days. If Boise was like 10-0, they were going to be in that top 5, top 6. What year was it when they went to the Fiesta Bowl and they beat Adrian Peterson and the Oklahoma team? It was 08. I want to say they were in the top 5 or 6. But yeah, the BCS used to love Boise. It was fun times. Fun times. Thoughts on next year's Pac-12? I see the Wazoo helmet. Yeah, my younger brother goes there. He's a true freshman. He plays on the D-line. He actually got a lot of stats this year. He actually just recorded his first sack against Oregon State. But new Pac-12. I like it because you need you need coastal relevance almost. Think about how irrelevant the West Coast was this year with UCLA being bad. USC wasn't going to win a national championship. If Oregon, when people think about the West Coast, they think of California, and then after that, whatever. But the Arizona States, the Arizonas, all that out there has pretty much just been summed up into, well, what's Oregon going to do? Because USC ain't doing anything. And so you need the Pac-12 to become pretty relevant again. And doing that, 07 Fiesta Bowl, 2 TD underdog, amazing game. One of the best football games I've ever seen in my life. I'll be 29 tomorrow. So I remember watching that game live with my older brother and being like, this was one of the greatest college football games I've ever seen in my life. Thoughts on the new Pac-12 though? Yeah, I like Gonzaga going in there for basketball. It's kind of like one of those things where Gonzaga was way too good to be competing in the WCC, so they're finally moving. Notre Dame, I got off that point. We have to get Notre Dame in the Big Ten or the ACC. One of the two. I would like to see them in the ACC for just more spread out power. If they go to the Big Ten, then I think the Big Ten definitely has a claim to be the best conference in America at that point. But we need to see Notre Dame in the conference, because them just getting this at-large whatever bid, it's just annoying as hell. Happy birthday. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, 29 years old tomorrow. It's freaking crazy. I've been watching college football. I'm sure a lot of you guys play the video game. My first college football game I ever had was NCAA 05 on the PS2. I played the PS1, but college, I think Larry Fitzgerald was on the cover of that game. But anyway, Notre Dame already has partial agreement with the ACC, so it makes sense. Yeah, with the basketball. I think the conference that you're in for basketball or football, that's where you have to kind of go. I would like to see Notre Dame in the Big Ten to compete, just with Ohio State and now Indiana, but Michigan, Wisconsin, and all them. It just makes sense regionally. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't mind the ACC at all. Waited too long, and as a UK fan, we let our Kentucky Golden Boy go to Florida. Yeah, I think he can come back around at some point. ACC is definitely weak. I think Clemson was kind of the first domino to fall with the ACC this year, them being that disappointing. I was really high on Clemson coming into this year. They've still got two of my favorite guys that'll be in the draft this year, Peter Woods and TJ Parker, that are on the defensive line. Those guys are going to be really good pros. But if you'd have told me this year that, oh my gosh, that Fernando Mendoza was going to be a better quarterback than Cade Klubnik, I would have told you that you're out of your mind. I would have told you that you're out of your mind. Q's last year, Virginia GT this year, yeah. I personally watched Virginia only beat Wazoo by 2 points. So I'm not really that impressed. But let's get back to this Pac-12. The start of the 26-27 season, Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno, Gonzaga, San Diego State, Texas State, which is a good one, and Utah State. I do like the Texas State edition. And if you guys, I mean, I don't know how deep you guys are into like college football, the trenches of college football, but look out for Texas State. They're building some new facilities down there. I mean, if you're asking me, a school called Texas State should always be competing. Like, we've got the Michigan State, we've got Florida State. I mean, whatever. I mean, that just sounds like a school that should be competing. So we'll see what happens with them in the next couple of years. I'm definitely kind of excited to see that. Would you consider the new Pac-12 a Power 5 or ooh. Well, if you look at those teams that I just named, Fresno, Oregon State, even Washington State, even though my brother goes there, San Diego State, those are all pretty mid-major teams. I would say a group of 5 at that point. But with the way that college football is, the way that the Pac-12 name, what kind of brand, and what kind of like, the Pac-12 still is a brand. And I think that if we go to 16, then they could be a Power 5. You know what I'm saying? If we go to 16, the winner of that should be able to get in. Now, should it be a case where like the winner and loser of the championship game get in? No, they should treat it like a group of 5, but they will be a Power 5, and that winner will get in. I think that the conference going in 26-27 allows for, which is next year, allows for the committee to go ahead and make room for 16 teams. Now, if they don't, then that group of 5 team that potentially were to make it, they'd have to go undefeated, definitely have to win their conference, but they probably have to go undefeated. And their only loss could be like, let's say USF this year beats Bama and runs the table, or they lose to Bama and run the table. Let's say they were to lose to Bama, run the table. They'd have a, and then win the conference, they'd have a shot at getting in the playoff, I think, in this next go around, if the Pac-12 is going to be considered, like if that winner is going to be considered to get in. So, got to find a winner real back. USC, it's over. It's over for USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA. That money is too good. The incentives of being in that conference are too good. The representation in championship games is too good. You got to think about basketball too. Representing that conference on a big stage in the college basketball tournament, or the NCAA tournament, I should say, is still a lot of money. It's a lot of revenue making for them too. But there's nothing like Big Ten football. And compared to what the dumpster fire of the Pac-12 is right now, forget about it, man. Those teams ain't never looking back. Never. Clemson and FSU were once ranked top 15 at the same time. College football is wild. Yeah, it's crazy how this world works. Because I would have told you after the 4th week of college football that there were a bunch of experts and analysts that would have told you that Florida State was going to make the playoff. They were going to run the ACC, and they were going to make the playoff. And look how stuff changes. And then Norvell gets told that he's going to come back. We could talk about him not being fired. I mean, now I don't think that if that job were to open, I don't think that I don't think that people would have been too excited about it as people might think. But FSU looks so good against Bama. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much the tide has turned. It's crazy how much the tide has turned. I feel bad for Boise. Them, Utah, TCU are in the OG small conference. They should be. Utah is in the Big 12, and so is TCU. Yeah, Utah and TCU are in the Big 12. Utah, underrated team this year. I think if they had not, I forget who they lost to, but they were making some noise. They're ranked right now. And in TCU, I would like to see, them be better. And that sounds weird to say, but like them and Baylor, they should be way better, right? They should be way better. Franklin will own it. We could talk about James Franklin to Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech has the patience and the location for that team to be pretty good in about 2 years. I think James Franklin is still a good recruiter. I think we're going to see a slight downfall of Penn State, the university, and just an overall brand. I'm not saying that Virginia Tech's going to come out and be better than Penn State, but Virginia Tech is going to be – they're going to be a force in about 2 or 3 years, and they're going to have the patience with James Franklin, and James Franklin's got some of those Penn State recruits coming, and those Penn State recruits are 5- and 4-star guys. Like, those are some serious players that are coming in the program, so we'll see. I think there's a chance for Virginia Tech to kind of take an uptick next year. They were ranked in the top 25 next year. I wouldn't be surprised. FSU looks so good against Bama. Yeah, we'll never forget that game just for how bad that FSU ended the season. But it's so crazy. It's so crazy how it's sticking it. If Franklin doesn't struggle against Sunbelt schools, he'll be fine. Virginia Tech was bad this year. Yeah, that's the thing about James Franklin at Penn State, Theo, is he was always beating the teams that he should beat. An occasional upset of Ohio State here and there, but he was always beating the teams that he should beat. And so he lost that UCLA game and then goes and loses to Northwestern. It's like, all right, now you're not even beating the teams that you're supposed to be beating. You're 17-point favorite, 16-point favorite against some of these teams. Now you're losing. Like, all right, now it's time to pack it up and it's time to go because you're not winning us any championships. But, I mean, well, he was in the semifinal against Notre Dame last year. That's a tough fall from grace, man. It's so crazy how that stuff turns. And Penn State, a school that doesn't have much patience, versus Virginia Tech, who has all the patience in the world. It's a match made in heaven for somebody like James Franklin. Yeah, he can't struggle against Sunbelt teams, though, right? Yeah, he has to, like, beat these teams pretty sound and get a good quarterback in a recruiting cycle that he can build with. Hopefully a transfer portal guy that we may not see coming. He goes to Virginia Tech and lights it up like a I don't know. I don't think anybody last year was really talking that much about John Mateer. He goes to Oklahoma, and it's like, okay, if John Mateer doesn't get hurt and how Oklahoma played this year and how good they were in surviving that gauntlet, that kid is definitely in the Heisman race. It might be winning it if he doesn't get hurt in the way that Oklahoma has played in the games that they've won, beating Bama and all that. So there's going to be somebody, a quarterback that gets into the transfer portal that makes a huge splash next year. And maybe it's not a quarterback that's not following their coach, but that just doesn't like his current situation now. I think there's definitely a chance for that for sure. Flame Jumper, Dylan, Chris, Penske, what's up, guys? Gabe, Jay, appreciate you guys talking. Tristan, appreciate you guys a lot. Keep the questions coming for sure. BYU, that Big 12 championship game is definitely going to be must watch because there's a lot that shakes out. Right now in the coaches poll, you've got Vanderbilt at 12. So yeah, I think if Texas Tech can lose that game, I don't know, man. I think Vanderbilt might be over. Yeah, I don't think Vanderbilt gets in. Just answering your question from earlier, I don't think there's a shot that Vanderbilt gets in. Not a shot. OU is my upset pick to lose in the college football playoff. How far the defense is carrying them with that offense. Dude, that Oklahoma defense is elite, but sometimes watching that Oklahoma offense is like, dude, if you watch the Jets play, where's my camera? If you watch the Jets play, it's like the defense could be so good the past couple of years. Like, obviously the team's fallen off the face of the earth and have traded all their guys, whatever. But that defense used to be lights out. Lights out. One of the most feared defenses in the league. But the offense can't get the ball past the 50. And sometimes that's what it feels like watching Oklahoma. It's like, okay, you're supposed to have this guy, John Mateer, number one transfer quarterback, and he was like the face of college football the first like month until he got hurt. And then you have Jaden Ott, who's just supposed to be this guy who just played with Fernando Mendoza at Cal last year. He goes into OU. He's supposed to be the number one back. He ain't done a crap all year. And they can't really run the ball. Their only explosive plays that they have are very far few between. And it's like, okay, you're about to play a team in Notre Dame that not only has one good running back, not two good running backs, but three good running backs and a good running quarterback. Dude, we talk about if there's a game that could go left in the first round, besides like the 5-12, the game that's going to go left, I think it's this one. I think it's this one. And I don't think you call this one an upset. Would you? Would you call Notre Dame beating Oklahoma upset? Because I don't know if I would, other than the ranking. Oh, you got to force at least two turnovers. Yeah, they got to force. And they had to force like Jeremiah Love to like fumble the ball. It can't be a CJ Carr pick. It needs to be one of their running backs fumbling, like a scoop and score. Like they need a pick six or something like that, or a kickoff return, punt return, touchdown. They need something like that because that offense needs like a kick in their rear end to get running. Like they need to speed that treadmill up and hope that OU can get on there and keep pace because that offense can get stuck in the mud. And I think the game would be at Oklahoma, right? Yeah, it would be at Oklahoma. So they have that going for them, but that's not going to be super home field advantage against a team like Notre Dame because they will travel well. Believe that. J Love don't fumble. He doesn't fumble. Shout out St. Louis. I don't have a St. Louis shirt on, but he's a St. Louis kid. Like, I'm not saying I know him, but I've watched the kid grow from a sophomore, junior, starting running back in high school to see what he's doing now. It's incredible. He doesn't fumble, but I'm saying in the by chance that they were to win or force a turnover, it can't just be a pick. It needs to be like something that loses confidence for the entire roster. If Auburn had even a hint of offense early in the season, they would have been good. Arnold was bad. Dude, the kid that was in quarterback for them yesterday, Deuce Knight, or was it Ashton Daniels, whoever it was, the Jackson Arnold thing is incredible to me. How he could go from losing his job at Oklahoma, and you losing your job at Oklahoma not because like the coaching was bad or because some weird stuff happened off the field, or he lost his job because he was bad. Like, straight up. They told him to take a hike because he was bad. Yeah, Daniels was in against me. Yeah. We're really excited about Deuce Knight in the years to come. Yeah, what a great name, by the way. Deuce Knight is a great football name. Yeah, if Auburn gets their quarterback figured out at the beginning of the season, then who knows what they look like. Here, Washington State, who I'm rooting for this year, my brother's on the team, they ended the season, or they played, 85% of their season with the third-string quarterback. So it's like, once you find the right guy, things start to kind of fall into place. And if Auburn is one of those schools where the last time we seen Auburn any good was when they had an elite quarterback, and not even to say Cam Newton, but Nick Marshall, I would say was, for college purposes, he was elite, or maybe really good. Maybe don't have to say elite, but he was really good. So Auburn is, and that's kind of the recipe for everybody, obviously, is that right quarterback. But like LSU and Auburn need dual threat quarterbacks. Alabama can get away with the Ty Simpsons. LSU, Auburn, schools like that, they need those dual threat quarterbacks. Unless you're going to have a Joe Burrow or a guy that's going to stand in there and deliver every pass perfect, you need a guy that can really take off when shit gets ugly. And they haven't had it. And Jackson Arnold was too reckless with the ball, and he just wasn't producing enough. Knight and Coleman would be lethal in the Golich offense. Yeah. Cam Coleman, he's legit. He's definitely legit. He's a guy that you can just tell is going to be really good on Sundays. He's going to be really good in the NFL. I just think that he's being held back right now with shitty QB production, honestly. Bo Nix was great at Oregon, wasn't really working at AU. I remember his first game at Auburn, actually, against Oregon. And I think it was in Dallas. And Bo Nix ended up winning that game, but like that was like the only notable thing he'd done all year. So that was really interesting to watch. That was a great memory. Funny we haven't seen an air raid Auburn yet. LSU won an Natty throwing for 5K. Who would have thought? Right. Yeah. I mean, you find the guy that can stand back there and see the whole field, you're going to have like you're gonna have success. You don't need Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson to do it. I mean, hell, Garrett Nussmeier threw for damn near, 4,600 yards last year. So it's there. It's definitely there. Penn State should go into the dark ages with no coach. About to go into the dark ages with no coach hired. Look, I think that they thought that their brand had a lot stronger standing, and I think they also didn't anticipate all these coaches being fired. I don't think they anticipated Brian Kelly being gone, because Brian Kelly leaving is not the same as Billy Napier leaving. You know what I mean? Like, Billy Napier leaves, and it's like, okay, we kind of expected that. He's been on the hot seat since halfway through the season. But when LSU opens up, that means Ole Miss opens up. And then if Ole Miss decides to hire within, the gap closes. But with all of the moving around, and you've even got jobs like Mario Cristobal in Miami, he's probably on his last stand next year. He's definitely going into next year. Sorry, there's some dust in the way. He's going into next year in the hot seat. Cristobal is. So look out for that Miami job to potentially be open, because there's a chance that they've lost their patience with him too. Top coaches get fired and not enough wrong contract. Yeah, that's why these buyouts come weird, and then you realize how much money is actually in college football when guys are just getting $30 million, $40 million to go sit on the couch. What SEC school is getting Nick Marsh? Michigan State wide receiver. Oh, he's the Michigan State kid. Yeah. Ooh. He's talking about a hot commodity. That's probably he's probably gonna get $1.5 million next year. I would say he probably goes somewhere south. LSU. I guarantee you Lane's been on the phone with his ass. NCAA needs to put rules in place for coaching carousel after the season. They need to do that, and they need to put more rules in place for this transfer portal window, because you're giving kids like 3 weeks tops to like figure out what they want to do, but then you're letting these coaches kind of just do whatever they want. Like, who's to say that? What if Lane Kiffin would have decided to coach through the playoff, and then after the season was like, actually, I want to go to LSU. It's like, what if he said he never, like, obviously, LSU, or, oh my gosh, Ole Miss gave him the ultimatum and said, hey, you need to make a decision by this date. I don't think there's ever going to be a coach that's going to be able to, like, coach the rest of the season undecided on what he's going to do. That just doesn't work. And you see why it doesn't work, because the transfer portal is too small, and the coaching carousel, they can kind of just do whatever they want. And so you box in a bunch of players who don't know what they're going to do, or they might make the wrong decision and say they want to sign with a school or transfer to a school, and then that coach either leaves or that coach is still undecided. So I think it's weird, but they definitely need to figure that shit out. I can see Chris Ball getting canned. People act like Miami has won the ACC before. Dude, it's my thing about Miami. They're always overrated as hell going into this season. This year they finally proved it. They'll get Malachi Toney back. We'll see what kind of quarterback they get in the portal, unless they have some quarterback on their roster that they really believe in for next year. They're going to be handing out the bucks for a quarterback, so we'll see what happens. Having games leak into the spring semester makes it difficult on players too if they want to transfer. Yeah, there's just no rules right now, and the NCAA is not governing anything. So if you're going to leave it up to just a committee of people to make these decisions, they're going to make the best decision for the schedule of college football and the news cycle of college football. So if we can continue to have our sport being talked about through the spring after the national championship, then that's what we want. Because if you're somebody who's older like me, I'm going to say older. My gosh, I'm only going to be 29. But if you're someone that's older like me, once the national championship kind of ends, college football kind of like just dies off. Like, unless there's a player that is supposed to enter the draft and he decides to come back for his senior year, or a coach gets fired, or there's some like turmoil, or there's a controversy, like a coach does some weird shit or something like that, then that's when like stuff gets. But like, even if like the top high school commit waits until after the season to commit, that's like newsworthy on the ticker, but it's not newsworthy for us to get on here and talk, for guys like Joel Klatt and Josh Pate to get on there and talk about. But now that the season has become more and more year round, I think that's what's best for a lot of people that are watching it, a lot of people that are controlling the programming of it. You got to think about it. If you're ESPN or Fox Sports or FS1 or whatever, you would love for stuff like this with Lane Kiffin to happen every single year. So between regular season games And the conference championships, we have something to talk about other than the matchups. And then something after the national championship, heading into spring ball, heading into the fall camp, we have something to talk about. And I think that's what college football is now turning into, that the coaching portal kind of makes its waves right now until the end of the season. And then the transfer portal kind of picks up its weight at the end of the season. I think that's just how it's going to go. And that's kind of how the NFL operates. Definitely how the NBA operates. And I think the college football is just kind of catching up. I remember Harbaugh poaching Ole Miss players in 2017. Yeah. The portal broke whenever Justin Fields was granted immediate eligibility. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point. See, like college football, they're going to pick and choose who that happens with. This kid's going to be a starting quarterback at a premier program. Hell yeah, he's going to play. Like, that's how they think. And you could call it corrupt. You could call it not unfair. It is what it is. It is what it is. Like, you guys see it. There's really no argument for it, but you guys see it. We all know. Chris Paul definitely on the hot seat next year, though. And I think that in the NIL era, Miami goes from overrated to, you hit lightning in a bottle there. You're talking about undefeated national championship contender for sure. Cole, what's up? Kevin Bear, what up? You guys got any questions or anything you want me to speak on? Then I got you, Penn State. Yeah. This has been a really good live though, guys. Like, I really appreciate 6,800 likes, 645 total viewers, 10 new followers. Yeah, you guys are. I appreciate y'all today, man. Y'all are really doing it for me. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, if we look around, kind of just the rest of the coaching carousel and all that. We talked about James Franklin already. Yeah. Oh, we can get back to Lane Kiffin a little bit. Wait a minute, who's calling me? Why did my camera just go out? What's going on? No, my camera just went out. What just happened, y'all? My phone died. Oh, my phone died. Oh no. All right, y'all, man. My phone just freaking died, so I will be back on here a little bit later. But I do appreciate y'all jumping in. I appreciate y'all tapping in, man. Oh, my phone just died. Dude, I was just killing it on that live. Killing it. Oh, that's so ass. Oh, that's so ass. That's so ass. That's so ass. Oh, I have no way to even like plug this in. Yeah, it's over with. I gotta get off the line. Oh. I will be back on live later, y'all. I apologize. This is crazy, but I appreciate y'all tuning in. I really do. Tristan, Jay, you guys hit up with me later. Theo, all you guys hit up with me later. I'll be on live either later tonight or yeah, I'll be on live either later tonight or I'll get on here tomorrow. I appreciate you guys.